Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
So, we are here tonight. My name is April Tribe Juke, and we are here with Dr. Mary Welsh. And tonight we are going to be talking about an amazing topic. And sometimes it can go pretty dark and pretty deep. But Mary's here to be our guide to help us find a way that we can have some light on this amazing topic and subject. So, before we really get started and dive into this, as everyone starts popping up, please share where you're from. Tell us what you're about, what you're doing, anything like that, so that we can connect. We would love to have questions posed for tonight as well, anything like that, because we do have an amazing professional here, and she also carries with that incredible experience. So I'm down here in Kyle, Texas. Now, Mary, where are you broadcasting from tonight?
I live in Warren, Michigan, just outside of Detroit, basically.
Excellent. Thank you so much for popping up here and being with us here this evening. It's an exciting time. So, Mary, why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I was blessed with 6 children, and unfortunately, my daughter Susie had a life of challenge, we'll call it that. And she lost her life, and it's been 3 years now. And her loss has taken myself and the rest of our family on a different journey. And Susie celebrated life with happiness and smiles and shine. And she was this bright, bright star. She was that beacon, just like you have the beacon of light. And so, as she was gone, how did we celebrate her? And we celebrate her life. And so this took me on my journey to write some books and start a nonprofit and meet the fabulous April.
Oh, Mary, you are funny. You're great. Well, I am so pleased that you're here to share such a fantastic topic with us tonight. And I can't fully understand the process of going through this grief journey as you have with a daughter. Now I have with aunts, with grandparents, with things of that nature. But I feel it's probably a little bit different experience because they were towards the end of a beautiful life. They had lived a long time. They had fulfilled many things. And so towards those ending twilight years, it's you feel like prepared. There's time to say goodbye. There's time for that. And as the loss happens, it doesn't feel as sudden or as surprising as maybe somebody who's younger. And that's just my experience thus far. And so, Mary, in grief, and as that is such a big challenge for so many lives, and what is it that you would like to share with us of how you can find some light in grief?
So, on my grief journey, I realized that there were several things that kept happening that were very important in my lifetime that are even more important as I grieved. And so I call them the 4 aspects of positive reflection. I've always taught myself and our family the cup is always half full, it's never half empty. Life is what we want to make of it, not what somebody does to us. And so um, I believe strongly that you should get some care for to help you deal with grief. And you're right, the loss of a child doesn't compare to some of the other losses. I just recently lost my mom. I've lost a lot of loved ones, but there's something different about a child. And as I embarked on this journey, I realized that there's 4 things that are important. One, we must remember those memories are cherished. We must think of them just remember the impact that they had on us, which is the second one, which is to reflect. So the good things, the bad things, how we impacted them, how they impacted us. It's a give and take, right? Life is a give and take. But if we always look for the positive, it makes the journey a little easier. The third aspect I talk about is to recreate. We're different. We're different from what we were the day before. And as you go through life, there's different chapters. We have grade school, we have middle school, we have high school, we have marriage, we have kids. There's different chapters. Some, the chapters continue. Some, the chapters end. But they all are related, which takes us to our fourth aspect, which is to relate. And so, in order to heal, you have to take care of yourself. Self-care is so important. You can't help anybody around you or fix anything. You can only take care of yourself first. You also need to help other people. So how can you help other people? April, I love your mission. I shared your mission. I'm giving back in the way that I personally can give back. The the last part of that relate is to give back in the community. And so with those three important things in relate, that's where my journey started. I wrote about my journey. I started a nonprofit. And so I'm helping others. I'm helping kids in the community. And I'm making an impact. And when I bring that all together, my daughter is alive, well, talked about. I talk about her all the time. She'll never be forgotten. And those things make me a better person.
Wow.
That's how
That
I
is impactful. That is the journey. That positivity, the celebration of life, the connection, the opportunity to share such life with so many people through the community, through the activities, through the writing. That is the impact. That is the important part of everything. And you are doing it with, I would say, with such energy, with such strength. And I know that every day has ups and downs. Sometimes they just continue. Sometimes they're just cloud nine. And so all those differences that happen throughout the day, it looks like you understand the basics of building a strong foundation of the four pieces that you talked about. Because as we go up and down and emotions can get us, those things are fine. And as you work through and with them, it also reminds us of how we live our lives, how our loved ones who've passed live their lives, and how we can continue to share the story forward. What a powerful suggestion. And I know so many of us, especially within this audience, have had these types of losses, even with children, even with possibly a spouse, and different ways people have passed on. I'm sure that makes a difference as well. So do you want to talk about some of those pieces that might have different aspects upon, how we grieve and why?
Sure. So, this is my adult book. It's The Journey into the Looking Glass, and it's finding hope after the loss of a loved one. And in the very beginning of the book, it talks about the short stories. Okay, and by that I mean I always tell people to say their name, say it often, say it loud, say it proud, and people will tell you how they're connected to your daughter, or how hearing about your child or your loved one impacted them. And so those little snippets, those little stories, can be foundational because they help you heal as you hear them or you say them. They help the person that's grieving with you in a different level tell the story and understand that that person had an impact. That person was important to them in a different way. It could be a boyfriend, a girlfriend, it could be a brother or sister, it could be an associate at work, somebody that was the recipient of their kindness and their help. Um, but everybody has a different story. And so I talk about the strength of talking about your loved one, talking about the impact that they had, so that it not only helps you, it helps the other person as well. Um, and we each grieve differently. We grieve so many different ways. And in my book, I talk a little bit about some of the different aspects, and some research that I did, because this is truly my journey. This is my deepest, darkest days and my brightest days, as I realized um, there is life in that next chapter, and she's truly never gone. She's truly always with me and inspires me in everything that I do. And so, if you can get up in the morning and you can just take that cup of coffee or that diet Pepsi or whatever your beverage is, and just look at how you're going to address the day and be kind to yourself. Kindness. There's days you won't want to get out of bed. There's days that you want to get up and you want to fix the world. There's days that the tears flow heavy. There's tears. There's days that the joy just shines from you as you remember and you reflect and you just, oh, those happy days. And so, when my daughter passed, we sang "You Are My Sunshine." And so whenever I see sunflowers and the sunshine, it automatically remember her. An excursion that we went on, she was on a jet ski and she was two speeds, full throttle, fast as she could go, and off. So the next year after her death, we went back and recreated that one excursion, my husband and I. For self-care, we left everybody home and we spent time together. And we did that one thing to reflect on how we enjoyed that day with Susie. I was on the seas and I was laughing. I was crying. I was talking. All at the same time. I don't know how. I must have looked like a silly idiot, but it was me. My husband, he turned around on a wave. He made a turn. He did fine. I made a turn. I did 6 somersaults in the air. Ba bum ba bum ba bum ba bum ba bum. I broke 6 ribs that day. I had pain every time I moved for a year. And I always told her she wasn't a pain when she was alive, but she sure let me know afterwards. But those are the memories we make, right? So you make new memories. I my I have 5 grandchildren, and I talk all the time about Susie, about other family members that passed. I created this book, and it answers all the questions that they asked me over the last few years. Are you alone? Are you afraid? Do you still remember us? Do you still love us? All these different questions. And I did it from 5 different perspectives, from 5 different kids. So the children can relate and understand death is different, but it's not bad. our loved one is always with us. And so by telling a story, sharing a story, um, and encouraging others to do that, that was the best way that I could grieve personally and help those around me, because I gave them permission to speak or not to speak, whatever their choice was. And the other, two other things. One is make a list, a call list. And when you have that moment and you feel yourself slipping down, I call it the rabbit hole. When I'm slipping down to that rabbit hole, I dial and I just say, talk. And they tell me stories and we start laughing. They know it's a trigger and they've kept me from that rabbit hole. Some days I just keep dialing until I get a live body. But it's what keeps you sane. Talking, 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 talking.
Agreed. In the talking, it does bring life. It does bring story to all of us. And when we go into the depths of story, the positive, the negative, the ups, the downs, it's just memories. I think of I think of a tradition possibly being lost at this time, but at dinner time, especially for our family on Sunday, the dinner time and the stories that happen, and talking about memories, talking about the trips we've been on, talking about everything. And when somebody has passed away, what an opportunity to have a discussion, to feel, to grieve, to laugh, and have possibly within that dinner time frame all of that emotion happening, which is
Absolutely.
beautiful, because that means you loved enough that the impact is there for you. I think the tragedy is if we haven't loved enough to, when they go, we don't talk about them again. We forget quickly, and that little light starts to dim and the stories start to go. I know it's really important with my mother-in-law. When she passed away, there were little things that were left and given to us. And when we bring them out, usually at a holiday, she was very festive, very festive. And so at the holidays, when we bring out something from Grandma Ann, everyone can share a story. And that is part of what keeps the living memories alive. On our computers, we have those, what are they called? The screensavers or whatever, where just the family pictures just keep floating up there, and we'll say, oh, I remember that time they came to visit, or I remember that time when, we just start to share a story, because story is the connection for all of us. And Mary, you are brilliant in bringing that, I think, with freedom for us to be able to express that and not suppress it. And I think that is just an important part, for sure. Looks like we've got people saying, never gone. My book, there was a person named a granddaughter. She only lived 5 months, but it was a lifetime of impact. Correct. It doesn't matter the amount of time. I think what matters is how it touches all of us. And this insight, the unimaginable, the worst pain, they can be resolved and healed through. But you have to do the work. Isn't that right, Mary?
True. True. Our family got together and we started the nonprofit, Susie Q's Kids. Susie had been in the hospital many, many times over her adult life, and she colored. She colored with her doctors and her physician assistants and the cleaning lady and the transport person, and they brought their dogs in to see her. She knew everybody, but coloring was an important thing. And on her first birthday following her death, I didn't want everybody to cry. That wasn't how she led life. So we got together and I said, bring things and we'll make bags and we'll give them to kids in foster care, because she had a friend that was in foster care and she remembered her carrying her clothes in a black bag. And so that day we made bags, and it was the nugget that formed the nonprofit that we started. And so my children's books go in the bag, and we put crayons and pencils and Uno cards and different little toys for the kids to utilize, and they go to hospitals and foster care and shelters, and to those that are grieving. And so that's our way to brighten and inspire the life of a child and honor Susie at the same time. And so you have to find that nugget of something that sparks you and gives you the freedom to talk or to just to heal.
Beautiful. I remember you sharing with me a story about, I think this was right after the passing of your daughter, and in sharing stories, people started to bring pictures of snapshots, photographs of all of the people who had taken a picture with Susie. And so as they brought these over, can you tell us a little bit about that story? That just blew my mind. I think it is a beautiful story.
So when Susie passed, she passed on the 1st of June. There was somebody's birthday, somebody else's birthday. There was something, an occasion, and I didn't want it to be ruined with a funeral. So we waited till June the 6th, which was my dad's birthday, who was an angel. And I said, perfect day. He's got her under his wing, and he's taking care of her. So I just encourage people to come and spend the day with us. And the house was full of people for days. Food, everybody came. They just came. And they brought out pictures and scrapbooks, and they just talked and they laughed and they shared stories. And I watched people, and I couldn't believe the magnitude of what was happening over those few days. And I said, make up the picture boards, and then the day of the funeral we went to the funeral parlor, and the man started taking them out of the car. We had 49 presentation boards filled with pictures. He said we had one board he had seen in his entire life as a funeral person. But the challenge was to find one picture where she was not smiling, from a baby to the age that she died, and they couldn't find one. One lady came up to me. I was standing by Susie, and she said, I found one. I said, you did not. She goes, yes, I did. I said, what was she doing? She goes, she was on a roller coaster. And I said, well, they probably got her going, ah! And so in my book, it was important to put a lot of those pictures with all different family, friends, different situations, because that was her life and that was part of her story. And so pictures are a trigger, and I have a hard time looking at pictures. My book could have been done a year earlier, but I wanted the pictures. So her best friend called me one day and said, hey, Mom, how's it going? I said, okay, but I'm having a hard time. And she said, I'll be right over. She came over for a week, and we took every picture off of the board. We talked about the story behind each one. And now I can look at all the pictures, because it's not hard. It's not death. It was her life. And so I need to be able to go through it. But I needed to have that one-on-one interaction. And so my daughter, my daughter's friend, I call her one of my adopted kids. She recognized that. And she came over and spent that time and thanked me at the end and said, I got to relive all those stories and learn new stories. And she said, I just am so blessed that I had her as my best friend. And so I did her a justice by being able to share those stories both ways.
Isn't that amazing how service works? She, in her service to you, you end up serving her. And that is, I feel, just as God and the Savior would want us to do, is that when we are serving each other, we are actually serving Him. And within that service, light, love, connection, relationships, stories, they're all found. And that drives deep. Those things connect and are lasting in an eternal fashion. So in that eternity, we then always have that with us. Whatever we can put in and store within our mind and within our heart, we get to take that with us as we go through the next phase or chapter of our lives. And that is a beautiful, amazing thing. I love what Lori says here. What a gift. Exactly. And the hope in a bag. I mean, so many stories that you shared this evening with us are showing this impact. So Susie lives on, and as many times as we continue to share, and all of the people who are impacted continue to share, I know that as lives are lived and as we reach and not stay center focused but focus outward, that is the beauty and the joy, as well as the deepest pain within our lives, because it takes risk to do that. But what's life worth living if you haven't understood what the depths of love can actually be? So incredible, amazing. Well, Mary, we're kind of towards the end of our evening together. Is there anything you would else like to share with the rest of us this evening? The floor is yours.
Absolutely. So the what if, the could have, the should have, they are just debilitating. They can just take you down that rabbit hole so fast. And so I challenge each of you to remember, when you say, what if, say, but I did. So it just changes the story. I'll give you an example. What if I had argued with the doctors? But I did. And Susie still loved me. And I loved her. What if I had, but we did? And she loves us and we love her. So flip the story, because you're in control. You're writing that next chapter. So you're the author of your own life. And you have to look at it from that perspective.
Exactly. As you are that author of your own life, as you are the one that can offer things of how you're going to respond, how the day can be chosen right, of what we want to offer out that day, no matter the situation, no matter the circumstance, we can go forward in such a manner that really can impact and be positive to other people. It takes a conscious effort. And I think about your daughter having medical challenges. I'm sure there was pain involved. And I'm sure there were days where it was like, you know, I don't really want to do this anymore. But she must have made choices that said, despite how I'm feeling, who can I help and who can I serve? Yep, I'm stuck in the hospital again. I can say, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. Or I can say, hey, are you off break? Come sit with me and color. I mean, what choices? That's incredible to have that perspective. What a wise soul she must have been. Filled also with a lot of fun and light, it looks like.
She was a character.
That's so true. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. So it looks like we've got 4 books. You showed us your children's book. You showed us your adult grief journey book, which is your story. What are the other 2 books that you have?
So we have the adult book, and then I have a journal, and the journal goes along with it, or it can go standalone. And it goes through those 4 aspects, and it really challenges you to look at what you did for yourself today and what you did to help somebody else. And it might just be a phone call. It might be sending a card. It could be just about anything. But you did something for somebody else today.
Excellent.
And then with my children's bags, I wrote the grief book about what the grandchildren's asked. But then I also did a book about the good characteristics to model. So both of these books talk about Susie Q's kids' positive reflections. So my special angel and good characteristics. So it's really about how we look at life. And those 4 aspects of positive reflection don't only work in grief, they work throughout everything in life. So if you take a look at, whatever your adversity is, you can still challenge through this and remain positive and look for the good in life because it's always there.
Exactly. You just have to find it, shine a little light on it, and you will see it sparkle out there. Even if it is just a pinpoint, right? Even if it is clear out there. I know for myself, in this darkest place, which felt like a death because we were losing so much, yet we were very much alive. And in that depth of abuse and what I call the abyss, there was just a tiny pinpoint, and we started moving towards it, and we found another and another and another. And as we started to find more and more, we found ourselves actually rising up out of this abyss, just point by point by point. And that was the right thing for all of us. And so this application from what you have broken down, those 4 steps, really can be applied to many things. And that is the brilliance of what you've given to so many of us. So we're going to put below all of the contacts for these books for the opportunity. And I want to do a quick little shout out for Miss Mary, because she's going to be having these book launches very, very soon. And so we want to invite all of you in. They're going to be at different times throughout this fall. And please show up, see what the gifts prizes are, but how we can go more in depth to really show a light on how we can get through grief, because that's one thing we will all experience at least at one point in our lives. So, Mary, thank you so much. And I will put all of these things down below. And it's been a wonderful evening. Thank you, everybody, for commenting and showing up here. It's been wonderful. We'll see you all.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.